Welcome everyone. This is the MasterClass. My name is Patrick Nazareth. I have around 30 years of teaching experience. I have used that to build you a course so that you can improve your English and become an excellent communicator, whether writing or speaking it. We continue then with parts of speech. Today, we focus on verbs. In our next video, we are going to go on to adjectives. Please do like, subscribe and share so that you can catch it when it drops. A verb is a word that expresses an action, an occurrence or a state of being. No sentence is complete without a verb. An action verb, something that a person does. Maybe he's running, maybe he's reading, maybe he's sleeping. Occurrence. What is happening around him? What are the developments that he or she is seeing? How is their growth? How is their change? A state of being. How is the person feeling? How are you feeling? How does everything about you appear? Without a verb, there is no sentence. A verb is the engine that drives the meaning in a sentence. Let's take a look at the types of verbs then. There are 5 main categories. An action verb, where somebody or someone is doing something. Words like run, write, eat, sing. There are linking words, where you connect the subject to the state, to how he or she is feeling maybe. Words like is, am, are, and so on. Transitive verbs, which require an object. She reads a book, for example. Intransitive verbs, where no object is needed. He sleeps or birds fly. Auxiliary verbs, which help the main verb. Words like be, have, do, can, and so on. The first type of verbs then, action verbs. These express something that a person, an animal, or a thing is actively doing, perhaps physically, perhaps mentally. For example, you could say she runs 5 kilometers every morning, or he carries heavy loads without complaint. You can see that there is a person who is doing an action, physically. That is why these are physical action verbs. Let's take a look at mental or abstract action verbs. She thought about the problem carefully. They decided to leave early. As you can see, the action in this case is taking place, but it is taking place inside somebody's head, mental or an abstract notion. Let's look at what we call linking words. These connect the subject to a describing word. Could be a predicate adjective or a predicate noun. They show us state, not an action. Let's take a look at the first type, be verbs, which are the most common. For example, she is a doctor. They were happy. Then you come to sense verbs. She looks confident. The mango tastes sweet. You are connecting a word with a sense. Remember, you have 5 senses: sight, smell, touch, taste, hearing. Then there are the other linking verbs. For example, he seems nervous. She became a doctor. Understand this. Replace the verb with is or are. If the sentence still makes sense, it's a linking verb. Example, if you say the soup smells good, you could also remove smells and add is. The soup is good. Therefore, it tells us very clearly that smells is a linking verb. The next type of verbs we look at are transitive versus intransitive verbs. What is the difference? Does the verb need an object to complete its meaning? If you see, the action passes from the subject to the verb and then on to the object. If you can ask the question what or whom after the verb and get an answer, that is a transitive verb. For example, you could say, she reads a book. What is she reading? She is reading a book. I called my friend. Whom did you call? My friend. Let's shift to intransitive verbs, where no object at all is required, because the action stays with the subject. He sleeps. Birds fly. The child cried. We understand what the subject is, but there is no object. If you ask the question what, you do not get a proper answer. Therefore, these sort of verbs are called intransitive verbs. And then you have some verbs that could perhaps be both. For example, she sings beautifully, which is intransitive. She being the subject, but there is no object. Or she sings a song, where sings is a transitive verb. She is the subject and song is the object. The context in which you use the verb determines whether it is a transitive or an intransitive verb. Auxiliary or helping verbs, which help the main verb express a tense, mood, voice, or possibility. You have firstly primary auxiliaries. Take the sentence, she is working hard. The verb obviously is working, but the primary auxiliary is the word is. It is telling us what she is doing. They were playing cricket. The verb, of course, is playing. What were they doing? They were playing cricket. Were is the primary auxiliary here. I have not heard from him. What is the primary auxiliary? Have. The person has not heard from that other person. Heard is the verb. Let's go to the next type, the modal auxiliaries, which express ability, permission, obligation, or perhaps possibility. You must submit the form today. Here, the verb is submit. The modal auxiliary is must. It might rain this evening. Again, the verb is rain. The modal auxiliary is might. Could you help me, please? The verb is help. The modal auxiliary is could. Let's take a look at a semi-modal auxiliary, which combines the features of both primary auxiliaries as well as modal auxiliaries. I need to leave now. Leave, of course, being verb. Need to becomes the semi-modal auxiliary. She has to attend the meeting. Again, attend being the verb. The semi-modal auxiliary is has to. Are you able to manage it? Here, the verb is manage. Able to is the semi-modal auxiliary. Let's look at modal verbs then, their meanings and their usage. Each modal carries a specific meaning. You have to choose carefully. Choosing the wrong modal could change the entire message. Let's look at the tenses, present, past and future. You could say she can speak French, which is an ability she has in the present. You can say he could swim at age 5, which is an past that person learned when he was 5 years old. You can say I will call you tomorrow, which is something that is going to happen in the future. Continuing on, you could say would for a habit that is past, or if you're simply being polite. He would walk to school. Would you like to have tea? If you use the word shall, it becomes a future or perhaps an offer. Shall I open the window? I shall see you tomorrow. If you use should, it is advice or perhaps an obligation. You should see a doctor. You should submit your assignment tomorrow. If you look at the word ought to, you can use it as a moral obligation. We ought to help the elderly. If you use the word need, then it becomes a necessity. You need not worry. If you use the word used to, it is a past habit. She used to play the piano. Perhaps she used to smoke. If you use the word may, it is permission or a possibility. You ask the teacher, may I come in? You might say it may rain. If you change may to might, there's a weak possibility. I might come tomorrow. He might arrive late. If you use the word must, it is a strong obligation. You must wear a helmet. Understand the key over here. If you use the words can or could, it denotes an ability. If you use may or might, it is a possibility. If you use must or should, it is an obligation. If you use will or would, it is either the future or a habit. And if you use the word shall, it becomes a formal offer. Now, we are going to look at the principal parts of verbs. Each verb has 4 principal parts. If you master this, you understand tenses as well. The first one is the base form, where you say write, perhaps go or eat. Then it is the past simple, where write becomes wrote, go becomes went, and eat becomes ate. There is the past participle, written, gone, eaten. Then the present participle, where you simply add ing, writing, going, or eating. Let's look at some confusing verb pairs. These verb pairs are the most commonly misused verbs. Understand the distinction. Look at rise versus raise. The sun rises in the east versus we raise the flag on Independence Day. Here, the sun is the subject, but it needs no object. It rises on its own. If you look at the word raise, it needs an object. Someone has to raise the flag. Look at the words lie versus lay. He lies on the sofa. She lay down for an hour. It's an intransitive verb. Simply means to recline. There is no object. Please lay on the table. She laid the baby in the cot. It's a transitive verb. It needs an object, just like table and cot are objects. Sit versus sit. Please sit down. He sat beside her. It's an intransitive verb. To be seated. There is no object needed. Set the alarm for 6 a.m. She set the glasses on the tray. It is a transitive verb. It means to place or to put something. Requires an object. Let us understand something very important. Finite versus non-finite verbs. It's an essential distinction for analyzing sentence structure. The finite verbs, they change form according to tense, number, or person. These are the actual main verb of a clause. Take the sentence, she writes every day. It's third person singular and it is in the present. If you say, they were playing, were becomes past. They is plural. Look at this sentence, it rains in June. Rains is present and it is singular. We had left early, past perfect. So as you can see, the tense, the number, the person can all change. Let's look at the other type, non-finite verbs. It does not change with tense or the subject. There are 3 types, infinitive, the gerund, and the participle. The infinitive form, where to precedes a verb, it could function as one of 3 things. It could be a noun, it could be an adjective, or it could be an adverb. As a noun, you could say, for example, to read is enjoyable. As an adjective, I need a book to read. As an adverb, she studied hard to pass. In all these sentences, you will find the word to preceding the noun, the adjective, or the adverb. These are called infinitive verbs. A gerund ends in ing and it functions as a noun. You could say, swimming is good exercise, or I enjoy reading. Perhaps he is interested in painting. Notice, the word ends in ing, but it is not describing anything. It is naming an activity. Look at the participle. There are two types, the present and the past. The present will end with the word ing, the past will end with en. The running water was cold. The crying baby woke everyone. The broken window needs replacing. Let's compare all three. Look first at the infinitive. She sat down to read. To read explains the purpose. It is an adverb. Gerund, reading improves the mind. Reading is a thing or an activity. It is a noun. Participle, the reading student ignored everyone. What activity is the student doing? Reading, an adjective. Let's look at the infinitive. The verb is preceded by the word to. It answers the questions why or what. Look at the gerund. The noun is ending in ing. It tells us what activity or thing. The participle could be either present or past. It answers the question which one or what kind. If you identify the function the verb is doing in the sentence, you will always be able to distinguish between an infinitive, a gerund, and a principle correctly. Now we go into something that is very important if you wish to be able to speak English properly. Active versus passive voice. The voice determines whether the subject performs or receives the action. For example, the chef cooked a delicious meal. Here, the subject is performing the action. What is the subject? The chef. What did he do? He cooked a delicious meal. Where cooked is the verb and meal is the object. So you have subject plus the verb plus the object. A delicious meal was cooked by the chef. Here, the subject receives the action. The subject plus be plus past participle. Take another example. He broke the window. The subject is performing an action. The window was broken by him. The subject is receiving the action. Another one, she had already sent the email. She has already sent the email. The subject is performing the action. The email had already been sent in passive voice. How does active become passive? When the object becomes the subject. Let's try and break it down for you. How do you change active into passive voice? In the active voice, you take the object and when you change it to passive, you make the object the subject. How do you do it? By adding is, are, was, or were. Then you put in the past participle. Then you add the word by. And then you add back the original subject. Let's look at some common verb errors that are made because these come in almost every examination. You could say, please rise the volume, but it would be wrong because it has to be, please raise the volume. The team are playing well versus the team is playing well. The team is playing well is correct. You should can do this. You should be able to do this. Look at the others, understand the patterns. You will find the test becomes easier. What are the practice activities that you can do? You have to apply what we have just covered in this particular lecture. You first identify the verb types. Understand whether each verb is an action verb, it's a linking verb, transitive, intransitive, or an auxiliary verb. Fill in the gaps. Choose the correct one. Does the sun rise or raise at 6 a.m.? Does he sit or sat quietly in the corner? Change active into passive. The students completed the project. Remember the formula of changing active into passive. Error correction. Spot and correct the mistakes. She has went home. What is the correct answer? She has gone home. You should can try harder. What is the correct answer? You should try harder. Daily, pick up a newspaper, pick up a book, anything. Take a paragraph out of it. Identify 5 verbs in the paragraph. Classify each type and check the principal parts. Let's just summarize what we have learned about verbs then. What do verbs do? They express action, occurrence, or state of being. Every sentence needs one. There are 5 types: action verbs, linking verbs, transitive verbs, intransitive verbs, auxiliary verbs, which are themselves of 3 types: primary, modal, and semi-modal. There are 4 principal parts of modals: the base form, the past single, the past participle, and the present participle, which ends in the words ing. Regular verbs add ed. Irregular verbs change form unpredictably and it must be memorized. Rise or raise, lie or lay, sit or set. Intransitive versus transitive pairs are tested everywhere. Active voice, where the subject does the action. Passive voice, where the subject receives it. That's the lesson there for you. I do hope I have been of help. Next, we'll be going in for adjectives in our comprehensive coverage of English grammar. Please do remember to like, subscribe, and share. Remember, there would be others who would require our help. Thank you so much for watching.